my sports friend from Cole Roofing. And, of course, they do commercial and corporate roof spaces around the area, all the wind, all the rain. And now, lo and behold, you told me it would be 100 degrees by May. Here we are, Bill Cole. This is the next damage for roofs that keep people like you in business, right?
Yep, sun is shining though, so we can do a lot of work. So these are good days.
These are the good days. Well, okay. Well, these are not the good days for the Orioles, but certainly for the Ravens. I don't know if it's the good days. This has been a wild week. Speaking of running companies and management issues, boy, the Ravens have thrust a whole new thread into this thing for Joe Flacco and for the coach and for the fan base and for cheering for the backup quarterback. That's going to be the new civic sport here, cheering for the backup quarterback, right?
Yeah, I think it was funny that the whole conversation was about Ozzy's last draft, and it smelled more to me like it was Eric's first draft. So I thought it was fun. It was fun to watch.
Well, and certainly fun on Thursday night. Were you one of the people that went to bed after Hayden Hurst was drafted or no?
No, I was up, but I was working and kind of only watching out the back of my head. And
you get that WNST text at like 11:41, and you're like, what?
Right.
I had a hell of a moment. Like I was in bed at that point. The Caps had made an early night of it. And, I'm watching the draft, and we keep trading back again, and then they make the pick, and I'm like, all right, tight end for Joe, a little Dennis Pitta mold here, a little Todd Eep, that's nice. And I did my work on it, and 15 minutes later, my laptop was still on my lap, the TV was still on, the phone was there, the cat was there, my wife was already in snooze land, and I just took like a little cat nap, I just dozed literally on pick. I literally picked 29. I didn't see the Patriots pick and whoever picked 30. I fell asleep on those couple of picks. And I think I may have even woke up and saw that the Patriots had taken Sony Michel or whatever. And the next thing I know, there's Lamar Jackson crossing the screen, and there's purple up on the screen. And there's Goodell, and there's him, and there's a Raven bird, and my phone's going off. And it was like one of those, what the hell? Did I just fall asleep on the Jacoby Jones moment here?
I'm curious, and these are things that we never get to know, but in today's world of...
Never say never. I know these guys.
Okay. The business of sports, right? Don't you have a conversation with Joe a month ago and hand him tape on, the top 5 or 10 quarterbacks?
No. You don't do
Joe,
that. You don't do that. No.
Someday you're not going to be able to do this anymore, and we'll probably part ways. You might even go play for somebody else, and we hope you retire, Raven, but we're probably going to have to pick somebody here. You want to give us your opinion?
Right. I don't think it works that way, and I guess in your workplace when everybody's working together on a roof, maybe you would think that way, and certainly in my place, putting hosts together, which sometimes was oil, vinegar, gasoline, kerosene, and fire water. I understand all that. And, I don't know that Flacco's pissed or doesn't understand the business side of this or doesn't understand the motivational side of this. I did think it's sort of peculiar that he blew off guys, and I was in that subset because I was down there, but I wasn't there when the moment happened. But I saw him on stage, and I posted some pictures, and he certainly didn't look dismayed, and I don't think he's dismayed. And he's had backup quarterbacks in the room who think they're better than him or want to challenge him. And he's been that guy with Tyler Palco in Pittsburgh back in the day and in Delaware and whatnot. So I just think it's a little awkward, but I think that's part of being the backup quarterback and the number 3 quarterback. That's part of what goes into this, is that the other guy there wants your job and is waiting for you to get hurt and so he can come and Nick Foles you, right?
And we know how distracting children can be. So clearly Joe is slightly distracted, and maybe this was something that the Ravens thought they needed to do to get his attention back on the field.
Well, it certainly should have his attention. It has the fan base's attention, right? And I think this draft has everyone's attention, and especially the way the Orioles are going. I think for us, for people like you and me, who have, an orange closet and a purple closet and all those memories. And by the way, happy memory day to you, Bill Cole. I know you're a little younger than me, but did you happen to attend Fantastic Fans a night 30 years ago today?
No.
You did not. So I did. So after the 0-21 start, 50,000 people piled into Memorial Stadium. We're on the 30th anniversary of that. And 30 years later, we're talking about the next rebuild for the Orioles, right? And where we are. And now this Seager injury happens in L.A. I mean, last time you and I got together, the Orioles were only 3-9 or something, right?
Yeah, there does tend to be a general malaise. I mean, even guys who I ran into a friend, and at this point he would have been to at least 2 or 3 games, and his kids are super into it, playing tons of baseball, and there's no motivation to get down there. And I'm like, well, they can go for free, right? And he's like, yeah, but I don't know what. I mean, his strategy is go for free and then see if he can go sit behind the plate because there's only 500 people there, so there's plenty of seats available. And
I find the whole thing to be really sad again. You know what I mean?
Yep.
I got really pissed off, when I was mistreated, and I still have never really told that story back in 2004 about how I was mistreated by them on a business level. Everyone at my station had their eyes spit in, press passes taken away, all the threats, all that nonsense. That happened in 04. On Flanagan's watch, quite frankly, and it made my relationship with him sideways. And then, in 06, when we did the walkout at that point, there was such a sadness about how empty the city was, how the Red Sox and Yankees fans, the only time there'd be 48,000 people would be when they were here. And I don't know that that's going to happen either, right? The Yankees and the Red Sox are both really, really good now. I don't think anybody is getting in the car at the Haba and going to Oriole Pack. And, I don't think we're going to have 38,000 Red Sox fans down here. Let me get the schedule. I got the schedule. The Red Sox come in, they're midweek, June 11, 12, 13. The Yankees are in the first weekend of June. My wife's birthday, May 31, June 1, 2, 3. The Yankees are in again July 9, 10, 11. The Red Sox, and these are all midweek. The Red Sox are in Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. It's almost like they kind of screw the Orioles a little bit. No, the Red Sox are in August on a weekend, 10, 11, 12. And then the Yankees are in August 24, 25, 26, another weekend. So there's 2 long weekends in August where the Red Sox and the Yankees are in. They'll both be working on their 80th victories by then. Machado might be playing for one of them by then. And literally, right? Or somewhere like that. And I don't see those crowds swelling to 42,000 on those weeks. You know what I mean? I don't think the Red Sox and Yankees fans are going to come take the place over and bring them money like they did 12 years ago. So I don't even know if we're going to get that boon. But, dude, I find the thing to be disgustingly sad that I was like Nostradamus, right? Everything I predicted back in 06 around Free the Birds. People want to call me a jackass and a bad guy and all that stuff about Free the Birds. They didn't even know what I was doing. I wrote a 19-chapter book about what I was doing, but most of these fans don't read, apparently. It was about the city, and it was about what becomes of the city when the baseball team decays and people stop coming downtown and businesses start going out, and it starts to look like Detroit did in 2006. And 12 years later, that is my disgust with all of it because the Orioles are a really, really good thing for downtown Baltimore. They're just not going to be this year.
Well, right. I mean, the economic impact is always felt, although people I don't think they recognize it. They just look at the schedule and the wins and losses. I don't know whether the day trip, weekend trip by train to go see Camden Yards thing has completely run its course, and that anybody who was from Boston or New York who thought it would be interesting to see Camden Yards because it was more about the stadium and their team, not about our team. And there's absolutely right. So there's nothing compelling about our team that makes that more interesting. It's not a competitive game. So
once you've been to the aquarium in the harbor and you brought your kids down here when they were 9, you don't need to bring them back when they're 20, right?
Right.
Literally.
Yeah. I mean, maybe if you were battling, right, and they were both teams were really good, And, it's been a long time. Let's go down and get a crab cake and do all that stuff. And the train makes it easy and all that. But I just, there's a lot of competition for those dollars these days. And
by the way, flights are $72 the morning of the Red Sox series in Baltimore. It's $72 to fly to Baltimore, and it's only $109 to go home after the game Sunday night. So if you want to come down here and stay at the Harbor, and you live in Boston, right out of Logan, it's $72. I'm sure I could get the same sort of thing out of Manchester if I checked the similar dates. That if my father-in-law used to come down and plop on the couch back in the day, a little more expensive out of Manchester. It's $108 to come down here. But I guess to my point, that used to be part of this 15 years ago. Part of my real disgust was seeing my in-laws come down here with 42,000 other Red Sox fans, and I would stand at the Harbor and do Red Rain over Camden Yards, and I would watch the buses full of Yankees fans literally disembark over at the Sheraton, right? And there, just hundreds and hundreds of pinstripe. I think that's gone, and that was. That was 250,000 people, 400,000 people, depending on whether it was weekends or not, that Peter ate off of 15 years ago, that I don't think they're not there and they're not coming, as Don Henley once sang. And I don't know what's going to get people, other than a bobblehead, right? And they did the statue dedication. All of that's gone for Oriole fans now too. I don't know the Brooks Robinson thing, the ceremonial thing. Maybe the last chance to see Manny Machado play, or Adam Jones play, or Buck Showalter manage. I don't know what the motivation would be on any given night to come down to the ballpark if Kids Free doesn't do it. By the way, someone on my Facebook, Bill Cole, shared with me like $5 Groupon tickets. So that's now the thing. So they're backdooring tickets, out on social media sites now.
Wow. Mm-hmm. I think it's funny that it's gone full circle, that the dreaded Yankee series or Red Sox series where the Harbor was inundated with those foreigners, we now lament and actually wish that they would still come down just from a civic pride and try and help the restaurants. And
Bill, they took out a quarter-page ad in the Sun the day after Hideo Nomo threw a no-hitter against us to sell ceremonial tickets. You know what I mean? They really did that. Like, I'm not making that up. You can check that out. They did that. The Baltimore Orioles tried to make money off of being no-hit.
Well, desperate times call for desperate measures.
Do you remember walking through the ballpark when the jerseys that were on sale were Clemens and Jeter, that they would sell those jerseys inside the ballpark? I remember all of this stuff, I remember Baltimore not being on these are some of the deep-seated reasons, along with the fact that they've spit in my eye for 25 years. But I feel like civically, to some degree, now that the city's under some sort of decay that's very, very visceral to most everyone who doesn't have their head in their rectum at this point, that the city needs help, that Peter never felt it was his obligation, but John speaks like it's his obligation. John speaks like a populist, a leftist, a man of the people, a man of the little man, families, regular people, the strength of the city. The community built this stadium that we've soaked into a $2 billion profit for our family, over the last 30 years. I get to eat filet mignon every night and fly private planes if I wish. I think John has some sense of that in a way that the old man didn't, based on his words, because the old man never even pretended to give a damn about anybody but himself. And his life has kind of been lived in that way. But it is a fascinating thing that if there's a point to embrace the community in some way, this wouldn't be a bad time to do that, because that's all they got going for them right now, right? These feel-good Adam Jones stories that Jerry Krasnick's writing about what a good community citizen he's been, and, what do they owe Adam Jones, and Adam Jones being African-American in a city where there's problems, and him being a star player, and now the rubber meets the road on whether they're going to overpay him to stick around or give him the hometown extra something at the end. What do they call that in the lanyap is what that 13th donut down in New Orleans. The Orioles have never operated that way, and certainly Adam Jones isn't in any position to give anybody a hometown discount at this point. But it is going to be interesting to see whether he wants to stick around for the rebuild.
what I think is most distressing is that for the first time in at least 10 years, the Ravens opened the door for the Orioles to kind of reestablish themselves.
You mean 6 months ago when the stadium was empty, right?
Yeah, just across the board. Like, this was the time where, we're all a little turned off by the Ravens. Things haven't been going so well. What's that other team doing? And that opportunity was met with nothing.
Can you imagine Angelos in 1998? I don't know about that purple team, but my players stand for the national anthem. I could hear him saying that to Ken Rosenthal in 1999. If that were can you imagine that? That's what it would have been a marketing. It would have been we're Americans over here. That's how we do things. We don't buy foreign. We don't believe in that.
It would further cement the fact that we think there's tension between the two teams and that we've seen tension between the two teams, but it would make it wildly interesting, and there would be a lot of stories for people in the media to tell, and people's attention span would drift back to those teams when either the product on the field isn't something worth following, or where there's just a general malaise of what's going on. So.
Well, I just gave the Baltimore Ravens $1,444 day before yesterday, right? Like, literally, final installment. Make sure, that's $1,444 what I paid. And I gave the Orioles nothing. So if the Ravens don't like the Orioles or the Orioles don't like the Ravens, this would be and they don't like each other, and nor should they. And the Ravens have been treated like garbage by the Orioles, since Art and Pat showed up in the, at a function, a society function, and Peter looked down his nose at them back in 1996. That has never gone well as parking lot neighbors. And it's, there's not the same kind of tension because Peter's not a part of it. But the real tension should be I've given the Orioles $0 this year, and I just gave the Ravens $1,400. And, oh, by the way, I'm selling trips to Nashville that are selling pretty well right now, and selling trips to Charlotte that are going to sell well. I've got 120 people on a bus to Canton, Ohio to see the Cleveland Indians play and the Pittsburgh Pirates. We're giving the Pirates and the Indians money off of our road trip, and I'm not giving the Orioles any money. So, there does come a point where the Orioles would like to have you with their brand. I don't know what they're going to do the next 5 months, but boy, the Ravens certainly stirred things up last Thursday night to say, here we are, we're still interesting over here, send your money in for your PSL.
And they got that, and they accomplished that. My question, just from our patriotic civic duty for the city of Baltimore, is, okay, where are people going to spend that money right now until there's something purple to buy? And, it's like, are they just staying?
Well, the Caps are going to win the Stanley Cup.
I liken it to, why don't we go down 83 but stop a few exits short and check out the Maryland Zoo, right? Like, that's still there. They've done a lot of good stuff over there. Let's go participate and check that out. You know what? I'll do that
all summer long. I'll talk about things you can do that are not Orioles games all summer. That sounds like a good topic for me, right?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it is really difficult to talk about the baseball team at this point, and there's so many reasons to talk. From what I do for a living and from your water cooler and every roof that you're on and, the guys who work for you and the guys and the gals that love sports in our community, the conversation about the Orioles is all going to be about trading Machado, right? And whoever we get for him, we're going to know as much about them as Peter Angelos does, right? Some high A-ball kid that hit the ball well at San Bernardino or something, right? Like that's what it's going to be, and there's not going to be anything sexy coming back in a Manny Machado trade or a Zach Britton trade or an Adam Jones trade, right? I mean, and Adam Jones can veto where he goes, but if Adam Jones wants to go run around in the Cleveland Indians outfield in August, the Orioles can give him an opportunity to do that.
As much as I love Adam Jones, the way the state of affairs right now, I'm not sure that the right maneuver isn't to get rid of every marketable commodity that you have, and try and just, as the Ravens did, move back, get more picks. We will get lucky somewhere. One of these guys will turn into an all-star. So I'm not sure that's not the best plan possible for the Orioles.
He is Bill Cole. He's with Cole Roofing. I'm drinking out of the mug. I am sadly out of my Kona blend. My coffee cup runneth dry, but Cole Roofing trying to keep you dry up on the roofs around, and they've certainly helped me out. Bill, this is where you take the floor and tell everybody what you do, other than being a sponsor here and a friend of ours. You've only been at this as a family for 99 years, and I love the 99 years part because, my mom and dad were both born in 1919, so that makes it a fun little round number for you next year as you hit your century mark.
Yeah, we've been doing commercial roofing for, like you say, 99 years. I appreciate the fact that that's easy for you to remember that way. That's good. Everything from leak repairs to roof replacements, metal roofs, flat roofs, everything in between. We started doing solar panels almost 10 years ago on top of roofs. They provide great economic returns for the people who invest. I think my comment on the work today is probably more targeted towards encouraging people to think about their career plan, and there's probably never been in the last since '07, so 10 plus years, a better time to have really difficult conversations with your employers about what your future is going to look like. Everyone seems to be trying to grow and get more people and get good people and train their people up. And, I'm not saying everyone should jump ship and move all over the place and change jobs. I mean, there's a lot of really good stuff around loyalty, but I do think it's, the onus is on you to look at your career. And if there's anything you don't like about it, you should feel empowered to go talk to your employer and figure out what the plan is, because you need to do that for yourself and them so that they can build on you. And the market for employment is tough right now. So
how many people do you employ at Cole Roofing and Pfister Energy?
But probably about 150 people.
Wow.
It fluctuates. It moves around. But
that's a lot of people. I mean, it's a lot of moving parts, a lot of families, a lot of things, and my wife works for a big company as well, and I have great appreciation for the moving parts of all of that. But that's 150 people with questions about their future that you have to answer, right?
Yeah, and by no means am I expressing that I'm the greatest at it. We fall down, too. We're busy in the day-to-day trying to get things done, but I do look at it as possibly the most rewarding part of what I do is, for 100 years, Cole Roofing has been providing meaningful employment opportunities to the Baltimore community. And those are the people who have helped build our reputation to what it is and who care about our company. And I can't be any more grateful for that. And it does, when things start to get difficult, it does help you get perspective on the fact that those are not the easiest conversations to have, and it needs to be mutual. So I need the guy to be looking out for himself and his family, and I want to have good conversations about their path so that they feel like they've accomplished what they want to accomplish 10, 20, 15 years, from now when they look to retire. So I think it's really healthy for the company and really good for our people to be talking about that. And, when there's nothing to, when we can't talk about the Orioles, then we can actually have some meaningful conversation.
I have a few around here, too, about politics as well. Bill Cole, Cole Roofing, they do roofs. You can check them out at coleroofing.com. They got a really cool website. You can learn a lot. I learned a lot about roof spaces as well as green spaces on roofs that help you as not only save but make money, perhaps, on your corporate roof space. That's at Pfister Energy as well. Bill joins us every week. We throw it around about sports and try to get the long tail on how management works and all that. Certainly an interesting. You had a charge about Eric DeCosta's first draft last Thursday. You want to elaborate on that? That's an interesting interplay as to what's going on there. Because someone threw me a note on Wednesday morning before I had you on, Bill, and said, "Is Harbaugh in trouble over there?" I said, Well, if Harbaugh goes out, then the coach comes in and here's the new quarterback, and the only way Harbaugh goes out is if Flacco stinks. I don't know that everybody there thinks that Flacco's going to stink. Luke and I, we split on two sides of the street. To his point is, if they didn't think Flacco was washed up or on the way to washed up, they wouldn't have used two number twos to draft a quarterback. And I said, I think the point is they only used two number twos to draft a quarterback. The point is they don't have $120 million invested in Lamar Jackson. The point is they sort of deep down probably hope he never gets on the field to some degree and that Joe Flacco goes out and, but to Luke's point, well, they just bet against Joe. throwing for 4,400 yards and winning a Super Bowl this year. That's why they drafted this kid. And I said, well, maybe they just wanted to light a fire. It is, boy, you could write a book on the inner workings of all the things that could happen here. And to some degree, they've invited the Real Housewives of Owings Mills into this thing, haven't they? They've invited a dramatic discourse anytime you're talking about quarterbacks. And that's very unlike them to start their own sort of grease fire, right?
Yeah, I don't really see it that way at all. And I think be grateful that you have John, as the coach, because he will not stoke that fire. He's the type that doesn't even answer questions, really. So I think they were investing in the future. I think they are wildly confident that Joe will be as good as he's been. We all know that that's somewhat limited. Joe's not, I don't want to go down the top 10, top 15 quarterback conversation because that's a rabbit hole. But Joe
elite or not elite.
Right. Joe
I've seen his paycheck. He's elite.
Joe is what he is. And I think it says a lot about drafting offense. The first, I'm going off memory, but I think it's at least the first 4 picks we took were all offense. And I think, and the 3 major acquisitions in the offseason were all wide receivers. So I think they are very much trying to set Joe up to have a successful season and would be totally okay. I understand that by picking him where we picked him, we get the 5th-year option, and that guy ends up being cheaper than what you would get if you'd have taken a quarterback in the 2nd round because you don't have to re-up him after the 4th year. So I think they are totally okay letting him work himself out and have Joe play another 3 years at a high level and try and put pieces around him. Personally, that's not my preference. I like drafting defense because I think you throw young guys, wild athletes out there, and they run around and they make havoc on defense.
But they've done that, and they put all the money and all the draft picks on that side of the ball, and then they come and point at Joe and say, why isn't the offense better? Well, you gave me Jeremy Maclin and Brashad Perryman and Michael Campanaro and a 36-year-old, 37-year-old Steve Smith and and no running game, and you've let the best offensive lineman on our line, the young comer, leave 3 years in a row now, all across our offensive line, while our highest paid guy is aging and now hurt. I think there's a legitimate argument if I'm Joe Linta, right? If I'm Joe's dad, right? Not Joe or Joe's fan or the guy on the radio to say, well, it's not like they really gave Joe all the weapons in the world and they brought him, a host of Antonio Browns and Tony Gonzalez's and Adrian Peterson's and John Ogden's on the front line and said, go win with that. And Joe's been hurt. There's a lot of things at play here, a lot of things in the sauce. And if they want to bet against Joe, fair enough. I don't feel like it was a bet against Joe. I don't because they didn't trade into the 9 hole to take Josh Rosen, right? If they do that, and look at what the Giants did, right? Like the Giants have a quarterback that's, to me, if you're going to give me Flacco or Eli, I'll take Flacco right now. For the next 3 years, give me Flacco over Eli Manning for the next 3 years. Agree or disagree with that statement?
That's a tough one. I'm sitting here thinking. I think I would agree, although that's tough.
Okay, fair enough. So,
how much older is Eli than Joe?
You know what? I'm going to look that up. My guess is they're separated by 24 months. I'm really wrong about that. Yeah. Eli Manning is 37, was born January 3 of 81. Joe Flacco was born in May of 80-something. Hold on here. I got his birthday wrong. I got everything wrong. January 85. So they are 4 years, almost to the day apart. So I'm wrong about that. 4 years. Wow. I don't equate Eli with being that old, but Eli's been around a while. So there you go. So do you want year 38, 39 of Eli or year 33, 34 of Joe? I'll take Joe, but they decided to not draft a quarterback, and they were awful enough to do it. Literally, your whole goal should be to pick second in the draft when you need a quarterback. And I thought that was the road the Ravens were going down. And that would have been the road they would have gone down if they would have taken a wide receiver in the second round or a tackle, or, had they gone down that road to say, well, we're all in on Joe. We still have our number 2 next year. Instead, they don't have their number 2, and he has competition.
Yeah, but I think that's, do we carry 3 quarterbacks? Is that the pervasive thought right now? I think they weren't sure what they were going to get, and I don't know if RG3 makes the roster. It depends how good the kid looks. But if he doesn't look that good, then you're going to be forced to carry 3. So, and that doesn't seem to be an NFL standard these days.
Yeah, body parts and spots on the rosters and who's going to run special teams and how many quarterbacks. You keep the guys you think can play, right? And if you don't think Lamar Jackson can play on August 25th, better make sure RG3 can play. He couldn't play last year, right? I don't know what they have here. So we keep thinking of RG3 as that guy from Baylor and the guy that Dave Shiner wrote books about at the Washington Post and all that stuff, and and making commercials. We'll see what he can do when he goes out there and runs around. The one thing that they've definitely done, there's going to be action around here in July and August, right? Like, we're going to be watching preseason games in a different kind of way. And I guess that's not such a bad thing in a July and an August where we're out in Canton, Ohio, watching bad preseason football, and the Orioles are trading away Manny Machado and Adam Jones, right?
Right. Yeah, I do think that overarching theme is you watch the Ravens do what they do, and this is unlike baseball, right? Because the baseball draft or any of that is none of that's celebrated like the NFL draft, but we all have a sense that whether all of us think the same plan exists, it doesn't matter. We all think they have a plan, whether they think Joe's done or they think Joe's good or we're going to win with defense.
Well, they have a couple of plans now, right? They have a plan A, right, a plan B, and a plan C. Plan A is, Flacco goes and wins the Super Bowl and we have a problem next year. Plan B is, we have a future. And plan C is, if maybe the kid can't play. You know what I mean? Because there definitely is a school of thought that this kid will get his neck broken if he runs around out there. And he had more rushing yards than Saquon Barkley in college, right? Like, it's crazy.
Well, there's a couple things that you said I want to hit. Like, one, I can't rationalize drafting a running back in the top 10. I don't really care how good they are. There's a lot of miles on that guy from being at Penn State. So that would scare me out of that. The other thing you said, and I don't know. Again, this comes back to how straightforward the conversations are between management, the coaches, and the players. But like, Joe, when we give you $100 million, that means we can't buy XYZ. And that means that we're going to have to get creative and hope we catch lightning in a bottle to be able to win some things, because we're not going to be able to buy the best wide receiver, the best tight end. We're going to have to hopefully catch a guy who had a bad year but, is ready to rebound and has the right frame of mind, and we're going to so we just buy 3 of those guys and hope that one of them is that guy. So that conversation, I believe that happens because that's a negotiating tactic when you're trying to keep a guy's salary under control. It's like, Joe, look, we love you. We'd like to pay you $300 million. But, we got a salary cap, and I want you to have an offensive line, and you got to have people to throw to, and, we got to have people to stop the other team so we can get you the ball back. And so we can't really afford all that. So I definitely think that's part of the conversation, and I think that comes with signing the contract. I'm going to get chastised where we could potentially not be that good, and I'm not going to have great players that make me look better. The onus is on me to make mid-level C players look like A players. And Joe hasn't been able to do that. So I think that comes with the $100 million contract.
Oh, fair enough. Bill Cole joining us here from Cole Roofing. You can learn more about what they do there. And, of course, we get together and drink coffee out of Cole Roofing mugs and discuss important things in the world like sports, right?
Amen, right.
Take care of yourself, man. Have a great week. Appreciate all you do around here. We will, and now that spring has sprung, it is a lovely time to be here in the Charm City and discussing sports, is it not?
I appreciate you, Ness. Thanks a lot.
See you at the Pink Festival 2 weeks from Friday. I know he's heading that way for the Black Eyed Susan. The Maryland Jockey Club is our partner. The morning entries, always in our morning newspaper at WNST.net. It's all brought to you by Planet Fitness and PlanetFitness.com, as well as our friends at the Maryland Jockey Club. Of course, the meet moves to Pimlico next week. Hi-ho, Pimlico. Preakness Derby this weekend. My wife and I are headed down to Laurel on Saturday. We're going to the Derby and drinking mint juleps, but we're doing it in Maryland. Maryland style, crab cakes. We'll be at Laurel this Saturday. Caps around this week, keeping us up late at night. And, of course, the Brigade playing a game down at the Royal Farms Arena on Friday night against the Philadelphia Soul. Ron Jaworski going to join us this week to talk about the Philadelphia Soul. You'll be able to hear that in the buyatoyota.com audio vault 24 hours a day from anywhere in the world on your mobile device. Just download the TuneIn Radio app. Listen to what you want, when you want, where you want. It's all brought to you by buyatoyota.com. I am Nestor. I'm on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Snapchat, Instagram, streaming live on our Facebook as well as our YouTube WNSTV channel. We are WNST.net, AM 1570, and WNST Towson, Baltimore, and we never stop talking Baltimore sports.